Boom! Hey, all you sports fans out there in the tubosphere. Welcome to the One Man Sports Rant, Gen 2.0. I am your host, Will, the alternative ESPN Sports Thrill, still from Generation 1. Excuse me with the Diet Coke. Burpees, bringing you our Olympics-only format. Okay, so I'm going to sound like Tank here, Neo's operator. We're supposed to go through this boring program song and stuff. Let's get to the combat training. Well, as much as I'd like to do that, we do have to go through the legal disclaimer. This show is copyright to the OMSR with brief video highlights to, or courtesy to, NBC and the ILC. I do not own the video within the show, but I do own the original concept and the material surrounding therein. So, most rights reserved. The only reason that I bring that up is I've decided to give everybody a tutorial as to how to use, a minority amount of others' content, incorporating it within your own broader spectrum. And not so much that you're getting away with it, but it's covered by what's called the DCA or the DMCA, Digital Copyright Act, as it was hashed out through WIPO, which is the World Intellectual Property Organization, and it clearly states that, copyright as defined by digital medium vis-a-vis the internet, and what is called a fair use standard and or a derivative, and has been borne out and or stipulated through case law. So, that being said, you want to avoid the 50% threshold when using others' content when you're incorporating it within your own creations. Good rule of thumb is to keep it 2/3 of your own, 1/3 of the other. So, unfortunately, for video highlights, you're going to have to listen to me about 8 to 9 minutes per show. But I'm not that bad looking at it. I do know what I'm talking about, having been an athlete for 30 years. Basketball, football, up to the point of college, until injuries cut me down short. You have to forgive the, the glasses, and this may give a hint as to our sports subject of the day, but before I get to that, just to close on that. So what is Gen 2.0 on the OMSR? Well, Generation 1, we had over 200 shows, but I willingly took them down because I got dinged by the NFL. And not so much that I followed the NFL, it was only for the playoffs and or the Super Bowl. Now, I even talked to the gal that runs the division, NFL Properties LLC, there in New York, and she told me flat out, straight up, they do not and will not ever give anybody permission to use any NFL highlights, not even if it's 30 seconds worth. That's all they do there is look for, people making 60, 70 grand a year just sitting around looking at YouTube, Facebook, all the social networking sites for NFL videos where they would be, like, quote, unquote, in violation. So don't go there. Alright, so that's that. So, you may be asking, alright, Will, alright, enough of that. Why bother watching when there's so many other renditions or locations for these videos? True. However, that being said, it is an OMSR specialty and its own cottage industry, as it were, to get to the crux of the matter with regard to the particular sport that we're covering on each show, as opposed to showing the entire sporting event that you would have to sit through necessarily. Get to the heart of the matter by showing the highlights that were pertinent to the outcome, being a little bit longer than you might see on ESPN or NBC in this matter. No, I'm not trying to compete with NBC, powered by YouTube, as you may have seen the commercials, vis-a-vis NBC or NBC Sports, MSNBC or CNBC. But yeah, that is an OMSR specialty. And I guarantee you're going to hear sports talk in an interesting way and in a context or from a perspective you will not see on any other network, because there's no answering to the network, the sponsors, or the gatekeepers, quote unquote, in parentheses, the producers. You see no earpieces, the producer going, you're getting off task, go back to the script. Speaking of scripts, this show is 50% scripted, but it's also 50% ad-lib. So if I go off task, you'll have to forgive me. But we do a pretty good job here. We have a good formula now on YouTube. Alright, so enough of the mumbo jumbo bumbo. We are talking beach volleyball. Alright. So we can't spike it on set, so we're going to have to go boop. Alright, no damage done. Tonight's highlights, as I explain on each Olympic show, is of KESSY and Ross, the other USA beach babes, how they pulled it out against Spain. Not that it was an elimination match, but they went undefeated in pool play, just like Misty May and Carrie Walsh. So it's looking like maybe that's going to be a gold medal match. You notice I got my Todd Rogers, you know, with Phil Dahlhauser. They lost the other night. So I noticed that Jay Spiker Gibb, Sean Rosenthal, they had this look going on too. But then they lose tonight. So it's fortunate that the OMSR is geared towards the heterosexual male. And I found it fitting that throughout these Olympics, I've been more inclined to cover the women's sports. Now, with all due respect to any potential or future female audience members, now don't laugh. Now, Generation 1, some 2,000 some odd subscribers, 50 some odd were women. Now, I don't remember exactly that number, but this number I do remember. 32 of them on their personal profile, and I checked out their pages, and it wasn't actually them. The photo of the videos were in bikinis. I don't know. Explain that one to me. I'm not going to toot my own horn about that. You wouldn't think that bikini babes would be interested in a sports show. But we do specialize in a lot of college football, college basketball, college sports in general. All of Pi Kappa Alpha, Alpha Tau chapter. Shout out to the U of U. So maybe that's why. Anyway, enough said about that. So back to the heterosexual male. You know, the Summer Olympics are much more nice to watch than, say, like the Winter Olympics. You can really dig it. It beats volleyball. Alright, so which takes me to the, I'm going to run out of time here with the 2-minute warning. The Life Rant Sports Round of the Day. One of the clips talks about how Jen KESSY and April Ross, got my April Ross glasses going on here. Alright, man, you're done. Now there's my 2-minute warning. I'm going to have to wrap this up quick. How their bikinis were too big. But what was interesting is they talked about how the rules makers that govern all of volleyball, they're there in Brazil. Well, you've heard of the Brazilian bikini, right? I just find it interesting. Now, it's like, okay, should the rules be governed in a country where, you know, the bikini is like, you know, a little patch of sandpaper? So I found that interesting. To the other extreme, with all due respect to any viewers of the Muslim faith, be like, well, you know, the rules makers in volleyball were, say, like in a really staunch Islamic country, they'd be playing volleyball in burqas. Alright, so enough said about that. Enjoy the highlights. I found that kind of funny. You would think that Misty May and Carrie Walsh would have had something to say about that because they're both married. Whereas with April Ross and Jen KESSY, they don't talk about their significant other. So I'm going to do my April Ross impersonation, right? So, Trooper Award goes to the other women's volleyball. You heard from Iron Maiden, the Trooper. I figured that was the fitting theme song for all the Olympic shows because every athlete in every sport, every venue, in any Olympics, you know, has been a trooper to get to this point. So the Trooper Award goes out to Jen KESSY and April Ross. You go, girls. You're gonna be playing for gold against the other Americans. All right. The other catchphrases carried over from Generation 1. No silly DUIs while you're out there celebrating the Olympics from your country or your particular sport. In later days, there are more Olympic players.
There have been rules and regulations about the size of women's beach volleyball uniforms. A lot of talk about that. They had to be a certain size and no larger. Well, Jen and April ran headlong into the rules makers in Brasilia in 2010 when an official came out to their court before a match and told them that their uniforms were too big. He said, change into smaller ones right now or you won't be able to play. Jen and April, I talked to them, they said no to that official, and they said give us the tournament director ultimately ruled that their uniforms were okay. Now, as you may know, the uniform code has been relaxed this year for a variety of reasons, but mostly to accommodate countries and more conservative countries with dress codes, and players are now allowed to wear long shorts. They can wear tops with sleeves, and I think it's a good idea because you think about the weather here in London. It's also a warmth issue, Kevin, that if you couldn't wear tops or leggings, etc., these players would be very, very cold. Staying in a great position here on the good side, we think up 13 to 12. Steiner down the line. She's got the ace. chess match out there. First, the adjustment. You see April going into the middle to help her partner. Great adjustment. But on the other side, Steiner sees that movement, saves that play for the very end of the match. Liliana Steiner with the biggest serve of her career. She caught April Ross poaching into the middle and placed it directly on the line. The serving has been the story in this match. You look at Spain and the Americans. Yes, too many misses. But a lot of tough serves as well. Now, you have to think that April Ross is going to have to step back over to that line to protect you. So then, who do you serve? I think it's going to Kessy. She's got to come in aggressive. She's been too tentative late in this match. 14-12. The set is to 15, win by 2. The Americans backed up. First match point for Spain. April Ross, nobody up. It's done. Spain with a chance. Bacarizo hit it out. The second match point. Go back to Bacarizo and take care of her cutting. She just missed on her line shot. Most likely won't go back to it. Ross has to get it in. That's priority number 1. She does. Steiner on a match point. Steiner off the net. Ross takes a rip. Steiner the dig for the win. She hit it out. And the Americans have tied it up at 14. Wow. Steiner has been so good, so consistent, so steady. And then late with the errors. Spain now will have its third match points as the team switch sides. And it's a good thing they do, negating the wind advantage here. But now the U.S. on the bad side, much tougher to score points. It's very interesting that April Ross is staying up the net to block. The Americans looking for the win here. Their third match point. Steiner set. Oh, Ross was at the net. A chance to win it right here. April Ross. Popped it up. And the Americans have done it. It is over. The USA hangs on and beats Spain in a thriller. 19-17. The Americans averting 3 match points, and they grind it out. Historically, beach volleyball, it's a game based on chaos. The conditions, the wind, the sand. And in the past, the Olympics has been very sterile. The conditions